My greetings to everyone. So today we are going to read in a new chapter, that is Mitchell the Otter, written by Gavin Maxwell. This chapter has been taken from the book First Flight of Class 10th. So before proceeding further with the chapter, let's talk about the author. As we have just known that the chapter is written by Gavin Maxwell. He was born on 15th July 1914 and died on 7th September 1969. He was a Scottish naturalist and an author, and his interest in nature is clearly being revealed in the chapter. He was known for his non-fiction writing and his work with otters. He wrote the book Ring of Bright Water in 1960 about how he brought an otter back from Iraq and raised it in Scotland. And the chapter is all about that. So here we go. Moving to before you read. Gavin Maxwell lives in a cottage in Camasfana in the West Highlands in Scotland. When his dog Johnny died, Maxwell was too sad to think of keeping a dog again. But life without a pet was lonely. So finally, he decided to tame a pet again. And how his decision took a turn, and how his life changed and reached to a different phase. That is what we are going to study in this chapter. Now, before we decide to keep a pet in our life, we need to understand that keeping a pet, owning a pet, is a lifetime commitment. And this is what is being mentioned here. Owning a pet is a lifetime of commitment, up to 10 years or more if you own a dog or a cat, involving considerable responsibility. The decision to acquire one, therefore, should be made by the whole family. And that's really true. Like if you decide to keep a pet at your place, you must take the consent of every member in the family. Without full agreement by everyone, the pet could end up unwanted. It might happen that any one member of your family might not like the pet, and the pet could end up feeling unwanted. Puppies and kittens are so adorable. It is easy to understand why adults and children alike would be attracted to them. But you need to remember that their looks are adorable, their looks are cute, but at times they are not so. The basic points we need to take care while adopting a puppy are: an annual dog license in accordance with government regulation is very important. You need to take the permission. It's annual vaccination against major diseases that has to be taken care. Giving toilet trainings, regular grooming and bathing, obedience training. Don't forget, you should feed your pet a balanced diet. Socialization. Many dogs are kept confined in cages or tied up to stop them from dirtying the garden or from chewing on shoes. This is wrong because the dog will not be socialized. A daily dose of exercise, affection, and play is very important to keep your pet healthy. Now let's move to the chapter part 1. This chapter has been divided into 3 different parts to make it understand, to make the readers feel easy to grasp it. So here we go with first part. Early in the New York 1956, I traveled to southern Iraq. By then, it had crossed my mind that I should like to keep an otter instead of a dog. And that Camasfana, ringed by water, a stone throw from its door, would be an eminently suitable spot for this experiment. So here the author is talking about the time, that is 1956. Now, this was the time when things were not very much advanced. The technology was not so much developed, right? So he's talking about that early in the new year, in the beginning of this year, he was traveling to the southern Iraq. He was supposed to travel to southern Iraq. And while that situation, suddenly a thought came in his mind, okay, had crossed my mind. So it is an idiom that expresses that suddenly a thought came in his mind. And what was the thought? I should like to keep an otter instead of a dog. So he decided that this time I am not going to keep a dog as a pet, but I am going to keep an otter. Now, an otter is a semi aquatic mammal which preferably lives in water and it also lives on land. Its appearance is somehow like sea, or you can say the upper look or the face is just like a cat, right? It is basically found in the water areas of Iraq. So he decided to keep an otter, although this was very unusual because during those 19th century, otters were not considered to be a common animal to be tamed. But he decided to do so. And what was the reason behind his deciding to keep an otter as a pet? Well, he realized that Camasfera, where he used to live, was surrounded by water. Ringed by water, it means that the area was surrounded by water. And that is going to provide a suitable habitat for the otter. And this area was a stone's throw from its door. Again, it's an idiom that says that this area was just a stone throw from its door. It means that it was very nearby. It was not very far from his place. So he thought that this is going to be an eminent suitable spot for this experiment. When I casually mentioned this to a friend, he as casually replied that I had better get one in the Tigris marshes, for there they were as common as mosquitoes and were often tamed by the Arabs. So, as we have got to know by now, that the chapter is narrated himself by the author. So, here, author is mentioning that he casually shared his thought with his friend, and his friend also casually replied that, yeah, we can get one as we are going to Iraq for the official work. Because in Iraq, otters are as casual as mosquitoes are here in our country. So we can easily go and get it from there. And moreover, their Arabs are also the one who domesticate this animal. So it's not a very big decision. It can easily be implemented. We were going to Basra to the Consulate General to collect and answer our mail from Europe. At the Consulate General, we found that my friend's mail had arrived, but that mine had not. So they both were supposed to go to the Consulate General. There, they were supposed to receive and answer a mail. Now, we are not talking about the emails because, as I told you, that the story has been written in 19th century. And at this time, mobile phones, computers, emails, messages were not common. In fact, they were not at all in use at that particular time. So here the author is talking about a manual mail, which used to take a lot of time to read somewhere. So when they reached Basra, his friend's mail had arrived, but his mail was not there yet. I cabled to England. Now, cabled here means messaging, informing, sending some information. So he sent a message to England, and when 3 days later, nothing had happened. And he waited for 3 days to receive his mail, but nothing happened. He tried to make a phone call, but as I told you, that in this particular year, 1956, that is somehow mid of the 19th century, making a phone call, mobile phones, computers were not at all easy. At that time, making a phone call to a different country was not an easy task. 24-hour booking was required. So his call had to be booked 24 hours in advance. He tried to do so. On the first day, the line was out of order, so he could not make a call. On the second day, the exchange was closed for a religious holiday, as usual. And on the third day, again there was some technical issue. So for three continuous days, he was not able to make a call. On the third day, we have got to know that there was a technical issue. So his friend left because he was done with his work. So why would he live in Iraq? So his friend left, and I arranged to meet him in a week's time. Fine. So here the author decided that maybe in a week time he would complete his work and go back to London. 5 days later, my mail arrived. So finally, the author's mail arrived, right? I carried it to my bedroom to read, and there, squatting on the floor, were two Arabs. Beside them lay a sack that squirmed from time to time. They handed me a note from my friend. Here is your Otter. So finally, when Author received the mail, he decided to read the mail in his room. So he was on his way to his room when suddenly the floor was turning. When the weight turned towards his room, he saw two Arabs standing there, and there was a sack. Now, sack, you can say a big bag, a large bag made up of jute, or it can also be made up of thick material because it is being used to carry heavy things, right? So there was a sack lying on the floor, and the sack was squirming. Squirming means twisting side by side. So when you keep something inside a sack that is live, the living things cannot be stable, right? So it was moving side by side. The Arabs handed over a note to the author, and in the note it was written, "Here is your Otter." So, dear, actually, this otter was ordered by his friend. Author's friend has ordered an otter, and these two Arabians were there to deliver the author his otter, right? So today we have completed with the first part of the chapter, Mitchell the Otter. Okay.